Now, in this episode, we are going to be talking about camera basics. I remember my very first time learning how to use a camera. Proper photographer camera. It was overwhelming and it was intimidating to say. And for years, that I tried to learn photography, and obviously it's the technical aspect of photography that makes it so hard for a lot of people to just understand what it is that they're doing or how to operate the camera. So knowing how to use a camera, it's almost as equivalent to knowing how to drive. It's like any skills. If you can learn to drive, if you can learn to ride a bicycle, you can learn to use a camera. So the very basic of cameras, like in many different, they come in different shapes and forms. It depends on if you're gonna go for a DSLR, the point and shoot, there's different camera for different functions. Okay, the main function of the camera is to just for controlling the camera. It's just for the function include controlling shutter speed, aperture, depth of field, even disposal camera. These all sound like it's the big word. If you say aperture, shutter speed, ISO, you're not gonna know until you are actually using the camera. It just sounds like it's just a buzzword, and until you have context of using the camera, that's when you're gonna know what each functionality is. Now, shutter speed. When we talk about shutter speed refers to the amount of time that the camera shutter is open to allow light to reach the frame or sensor. So the shutter speed is just the time frame we allow for light to come in. If we have more light or less light. For example, if you're shooting an econ, for example, maybe you might want to use f3 or f8. This all depends, and it also depends on the condition of the room. Is the room well lit? There's different factors that goes into it. The next thing I want to talk about is when we talk about aperture. Aperture, on the other hand, refers to the size of the camera aperture, which is opening of the lens. So aperture, on the other hand, just lets light in. Aperture, on the other hand, just let light into the camera, which can be used in low light situations. So if you've got a really low light situation, you can change the aperture to make it brighter. If it's a very bright situation, you can change the aperture to make it go lower. So the higher the aperture, the more light is going to go in. So if I'm shooting at dark nighttime, I might have to increase my aperture in some cases. If I'm shooting at low, shooting in a very bright situation, I might have to lower my aperture so the light isn't overly saturated. Now, obviously, okay, and finally, we have the depth of field, which refers to the range of the focus of the image. A shallow depth of field in this matter, usually. So, to sum it up, the camera operates on twin functionality, which is aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Those are the main fundamental of the camera basics. If you need to learn more about this, we'll go into it in detail. So just to sum it up, the shutter speed is just the amount of time in which we allow the light to open on the film sensor of the camera. So this is just the period of time that we allow the light to be exposed. The speed is usually measured by the fraction of a second. So it may be 1 over 250. The faster the shutter speed opens and closes, the less light the film has to, the less light it strikes the digital sensor. Now, the aperture, on the other hand, describe the size of opening of the camera lens, how big you want the camera lens to be open or how low you want to be open, and to allow the light to pass through the lens. The aperture works with the shutter speed to control the amount of light that goes through the sensors. Aperture generally is measured by f-stop. So you'd have it goes in f-stops anyway. You can go now. The depth of field just describe how much the image is on the focus from front to back. The depth of field is controlled by the aperture. such as portraits, and traditionally use mostly small depths of field in order to blur. Yeah, that's pretty much it.